She thought Doggy style was just a human joke until he gave her a live demonstration in the middle of a galactic war. In a lonely outpost on the edge of the universe, a battle-hardened human commander and a logic-driven alien tech specialist discover that love might be the most unpredictable force in the galaxy. But when an ancient intelligence awakens beneath their feet, their forbidden bond might be the key to saving or dooming everything they know. Stay with us until the end, because this isn't just a love story, it's a war between connection and control, memory and machine. And the stars are watching. Welcome to Beyond the Stars. Let's begin. Chapter 1, The Farthest Outpost in the Galaxy. POV Ariel, alien tech specialist. I've lived among humans for 3 months now. They are chaotic, expressive, unpredictable, and utterly fascinating. Echo 17 sits on the barren edge of a crimson desert where twin moons rise over jagged rock like silent sentinels. I spend my evenings here in my quarters, watching the skyline shift from gold to violet as the sun sets behind the razor cliffs. This planet is not kind, but it is honest. The weather does not pretend. The creatures here do not bluff. It's only humans who carry storms inside themselves. Tonight, Captain Ethan Ward leans against the frame of my door, still wearing his bulky combat armor. His shoulders fill the space like a threat and a promise all at once. His hair is short, practical. His jaw carries stubble. I've seen him wrestle down creatures twice his size, seen him laugh through bullet wounds. And yet, here he is, smiling at me like I'm something delicate. "You always stare at the horizon like it might talk back," he says. His voice is deep, lined with amusement. "Perhaps it does," I answer, adjusting the cuffs of my pale gray sleepwear. "Or perhaps I'm just trying to understand the absurdity of Earth customs." Ethan steps inside, one brow raised. "Absurd, huh? Got a specific one in mind?" I hesitate for a heartbeat, then meet his gaze. "Your mating rituals are particularly, creative." That makes him laugh. It's a sound I've grown fond of. Unrefined, unfiltered. I envy it. "Yeah, we do have a few interesting names," he says, running a hand through his hair. "Missionary cowgirl, reverse cowgirl." I tick them off with academic interest, and he chokes on a breath, clearly not expecting me to know those. "You've been doing research," he mutters. I tilt my head. "I research everything. It is my job." Then curiously, "What is Doggy style?" Ethan looks like I've just hit him with a stun pulse. I try to demonstrate. "It's only logical. Names should have visual meaning." So I drop onto all fours on my bed, glance over my shoulder and ask, "Like this, like Earth dogs?" I swear the air between us changes density. He doesn't answer right away. I hear the creak of his armor as he shifts uncomfortably. His voice, when it comes, is lower, rougher. "Yeah, something like that." I frown. "But why name a mating position after an animal?" "Because that's how they, do it." Realization dawns slowly. Then suddenly, my entire face flushes a deeper crimson, something that has only happened twice before in my life. I sit back on my heels, mortified. "Oh," I whisper. "I see." The silence stretches. Ethan rubs the back of his neck, trying to find words. I jump up and blurt out, "Would you like some tea?" He exhales. "Tea would be great." As I walk to the kitchenette, I feel my body humming. Embarrassment? No, not just that. There's something else, something unsettling. My hands tremble slightly as I pour the violet liquid into ceramic cups. Its cinnamon scent calms me. I hand one to Ethan, and our fingers brush. There's that current again. "How long have you been stationed here?" I ask, carefully keeping my back turned. 3 months, same as you." "It feels longer," I say, more to myself than to him. "Because of the isolation?" and he asks. "Partly," I admit. "Also, being around you." I'm not sure why I say that. It isn't logical, but it is honest. He doesn't reply at first. Instead, "Yish bein home," Yish answered sudden. He removes his gloves and sits across from me. His eyes, blue, unreadable, hold mine. I find myself wondering how this species can be so emotionally raw and yet survive so long. "You humans," I murmur. "You are so complicated." He chuckles. "We get that a lot." We talk long after the tea has gone cold, about work, about Echo 17, about the creatures we're supposed to be studying and killing in equal measure, and eventually about nothing at all. When Ethan finally stands to leave, I feel a pang in my chest. The sensation is new. I should let you rest, he says. Thank you for the cultural education, I say. He pauses at the door. Same time tomorrow? I'd like that, I answer softly. When he's gone, I return to the window. The moons are high now, silver against a violet sky. The bed still holds the imprint of where I knelt, innocently, foolishly. But what lingers is not shame, it's possibility. I was taught that emotions are secondary, obstacles to logic. But right now, as I watch the horizon bleed starlight, I am beginning to question everything. I am beginning to understand why humans name things the way they do, and why they fall in love the way they do. Chapter 2, The Storm and the Shelter of Ariel, Leon Tech Specialist. I didn't sleep that night, not because of the conversation, though it replayed in my mind like a corrupted data loop, but because of a warning on my scanner, an anomalous pressure drop in the upper atmosphere. On Echo 17, that usually means one thing: a storm. By midday, the sky had turned from violet to bruised indigo. Wind howled against the reinforced walls of the outpost. I kept my eyes on the data feed while double-checking the sensor nodes along the southern ridge. Ethan's voice came through the comm in clipped, professional bursts. No more jokes about mating rituals. No more lingering stares. We were back to business. But my pulse didn't get the message. At 1500 hours, our field team reported movement in the canyons. Skrill. Dozens at first, then hundreds. Native predators, semi-sentient, aggressive, and apparently disturbed by the oncoming storm. When they swarm, they don't just hunt. They consume. I should have stayed behind at base. That was protocol. But when Ethan asked me to accompany the team as lead scanner, I said yes. Not because it was logical, because it was him. We trekked across jagged stone and shifting dust. My scanner blinked red intermittently. Interference, possibly from storm-charged minerals, or something worse. They're close, I reported. Signal distortion, but the signatures are strong. Ethan turned his head slightly toward me. Stay close. I did. Then came the screech, high-pitched and wrong, followed by more, echoing off the rock like war cries. The skrill burst from the ravine like water from a ruptured pipe. 6 limbs, oil-slick shells, teeth meant for tearing through flesh and armor alike. Fall back, Ethan roared, his rifle lighting up the dusk. The team scattered, screams and weapons fire tangled in the air. A bolt sizzled past my ear. I froze for one breath too long. Then a hand gripped my arm. Cave system. East. Move. Ethan, pulling me forward. I ran. The sky opened above us, rain slamming down like liquid stone. Thunder boomed. The wind tore at my clothes and hair. He guided me through narrow canyons, firing behind us without missing a stride. I'd never seen him like this, focused, brutal, beautiful in motion. We reached the cave just as lightning cracked across the sky. He pushed me inside, then followed, both of us panting, soaked and trembling. They'll make it to the transport, I said between breaths. They have to. I checked my scanner. No Skrill signatures inside. We're safe. For now. He removed his helmet. Sweat streaked his face. A shallow cut bled just below his cheekbone. Without thinking, I reached out and touched it. You're injured, I said quietly. It's nothing. He took my hand in his, pressing it gently against his skin. And suddenly, the storm wasn't just outside anymore. It was inside me. We stared at each other. I saw the flicker in his eyes before he leaned in, hesitant, seeking. When our lips met, my thoughts fractured. It was tentative, exploratory, and yet more intimate than anything I'd ever known. I'd studied human kissing before. Of course I had. I knew it was a prelude to mating, a gesture of affection, but nothing had prepared me for this. When we broke apart, my breathing was ragged. So was his. I've wanted to do that since the first time I saw you, he said, even though you're not human. I looked at him, this man who'd defied monsters and storms alike to keep me safe. Because I'm not human? I asked. No, he said, because you're you. He kissed me again, and this time I kissed him back without hesitation. I don't know how we ended up on the cave floor, on his thermal blanket, our bodies tangled together, armor shed and breath shared. I only remember how gentle he was, how patient, how reverent. like he was learning me as much as I was learning him. I'd been taught that mating was mechanical, necessary only for genetic continuation. But Ethan showed me something else, something terrifyingly powerful: connection. Afterwards, I lay with my head on his chest, listening to the rhythm of his heart. My fingers traced the faint scars on his torso, the subtle rise and fall of his breathing. I didn't want to move, didn't want to think. "So that's what all the fuss is about," I murmured. He laughed quietly. "That's one way to put it. Humans value physical intimacy," I said, "but it's not just physical." "No," he agreed, brushing hair from my face. "It's emotional, a bond." I looked up at him, my thoughts swirling. "Is that what this is?" He didn't answer with words, only held me tighter. Outside, the storm continued, but I was no longer afraid of it, because for the first time in my life, I didn't feel alone. Chapter 3, Biology, Protocols, and Politics. POV Ariel, Lion Tech Specialist. 3 days had passed since the cave. 3 days of stolen glances across the control center, of whispered words in corridors, of nights spent behind locked doors with our bodies entwined, hearts racing, minds spinning. But Echo 17 didn't stop for love. Protocol required a full medical exam for anyone exposed to environmental anomalies, especially those involving close proximity to native organisms, or in our case, each other. We sat side by side on the cold edge of an examination table, pretending not to touch. But Ethan's pinky brushed against mine beneath the fabric of his uniform, grounding me like a tether. Dr. Silas Wren, older, always exhausted, and far too perceptive, frowned at the holographic display hovering over his desk. "Well," he muttered, "this is unexpected." Ethan sat up straighter. "What is?" The doctor adjusted his glasses. "Your bioscans. They show compatibility. Significant compatibility." My brow furrowed. "In what way?" "In almost every way," Wren replied, growing animated. "Cellular structures, immune response markers, hormonal receptors. Your DNA strands don't just coexist, they resonate. I would have expected genetic chaos, but instead, it's almost as if—" He paused, squinting at the data again. "As if what?" Ethan prompted. Wren gave us a look that I can only describe as wary excitement. "As if your species were designed to be compatible." A chill settled in my chest. There was more. "These readings," he continued, "suggest potential for reproductive viability." Ethan stiffened beside me. I felt my own breath catch. "Reproductive?" I repeated. "As in offspring?" "Only theoretically," Wren assured us quickly. "But yes, based on cellular fusion models, it's possible." We sat in silence as his words hung in the air like unspent plasma charges. Ethan finally spoke, voice neutral. "That's a big discovery." "Revolutionary," Wren agreed. "I'll need to run more tests and file a report to both Earth Command and the Lion Directorate. This could change everything." I barely heard the rest. My thoughts were spiraling. Lions didn't believe in cross-species bonding. It wasn't forbidden. It was unthinkable. Taught as biologically impossible, culturally illogical. Yet here I was. And we were living proof otherwise. Wren waved us out, still muttering to himself, lost in his readings. We walked in silence through the station. My mind raced. Every shadow now felt like surveillance. Every footstep behind us a possible listener. Inside Ethan's quarters, the door sealed behind us, I began pacing. "This changes everything," I said. He sat on the edge of the bed, watching me. "Does it have to?" "If this gets out," I snapped, "we'll become specimens. Study subjects. Test cases, not people, not lovers." He stood, moved toward me. "Let them try. I'm a soldier, not an exhibit. You might be able to withstand the scrutiny," I whispered. "But I'm Leon, and they will not be kind." He reached for me, his touch grounding once more. Then we faced them together. Before I could respond, the door chimed. Ethan tapped the console. The door slid open to reveal Zareth, my former colleague, and one of the Directorate's scientific liaisons assigned to Echo 17. He was tall even by Lion standards, with golden eyes that rarely blinked and a voice like ice fracturing. "Ariel," he said coolly, "may I have a word?" Ethan stepped forward. "Now's not really..." It's fine, I cut in, shooting Ethan a look. I'll speak with him. We moved to the hallway. Zareth waited until the door closed before speaking. You've become reckless. I stiffen in. Excuse me? You're compromising your objectivity. You were sent here to observe humans, not entangle yourself with one. I folded my arms. You've been watching me. Of course I have. I monitor all Leon personnel on off-world assignments. He stepped closer. And I've already submitted a preliminary alert to the directorate. If they don't recall you, I will make sure they investigate. Then go ahead, I said, holding his gaze. Submit your reports. I have nothing to hide. His eyes narrowed. You think this is about scandal? It's about contamination. Your genes are valuable. Your choices reflect on us all. I took a slow, deliberate step forward, my voice like steel. Then maybe it's time for our species to evolve. He didn't respond, just turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing like accusations down the corridor. Back inside, Ethan asked, "What did he want?" "Control," I muttered, "but he won't get it." I sat beside Ethan, suddenly exhausted. They'll come, both governments, not for diplomacy, for damage control. Ethan squeezed my hand. Then we better make damn sure they understand who they're dealing with. And for the first time since I arrived on Echo 17, I didn't feel like a lion on assignment. I felt like myself, and I knew what I was willing to fight for. Chapter 4, The Swarm. POV Ariel, Alien Tech Specialist. The alarms began just after first rotation. Red strobes lit the corridors of Echo 17 as I sprinted toward the command center. Ethan's voice already crackling through the comms. All units to defensive stations. Confirm Skrill activity. Repeat. Massive Skrill surge from the southern quadrant. This is not a drill. By the time I arrived, the command center was bathed in urgent light and tension. Captain Rhodes stood at the center console, barking orders. The main screen displayed something none of us were prepared for. Thousands of Skrill. A living tide of chitin and claws, advancing faster than our systems could predict. The largest swarm on record had maybe topped 400. This was in the thousands. So storms must have disturbed their nesting grounds, I offered, my fingers already flying across the tactical interface. Or they've evolved, Rhodes muttered grimly. I located Ethan on the battlefield feed, already suited up, already leading. He moved like a storm himself. I couldn't look away. But I wasn't the only one watching. Commander Valen had arrived an hour earlier aboard the Lion diplomatic cruiser, supposedly to debrief me following Dr. Wren's report. Now he stood beside me, arms folded, eyes narrowed at the chaos unfolding on the screen. Your humans are about to be overrun, he said, voice clipped. My team is defending your outpost. I snapped before I could stop myself. He glanced at me. We'll see if your hybrid loyalties were worth the risk. I ignored him and focused on the feed. Ethan's squad was holding the eastern choke point, flanked by 2 Lion sniper units positioned on the high cliffs. The integration between species wasn't perfect, but it was working. Alpha team, reinforce the ventilation corridor, Ethan ordered calmly over the comms. Bravo, pivot left, push them into the kill zone. It was art, what he did, blending raw human adaptability with Lion precision. They're not attacking randomly, I said, eyes narrowing. They're coordinated, someone's directing them. New Skrill variant detected, I added a second later, scanning frantically. Larger, armored, intelligence signs confirmed. It's a leader unit, Velan finished grimly. And just like that, the swarm's behavior shifted. The horde began pressing toward a weak junction, one dangerously close to our environmental control core. They're breaching Junction 7, someone shouted. Ethan, I called on the comms, that's your location. Fall back now. They're adapting to your defense strategy. His voice came through immediately. Acknowledged, repositioning. Wait, Commander Valen, behind you. The feed twisted, static, then clarity. 3 Alpha Skrill units burst through a compromised wall. Too fast, too sudden. Ethan lunged. I saw it in frozen detail. The way he tackled Velan, shoving him to the ground just before the creatures pounced. Saw the mandibles tear into Ethan's armor. Saw blood. Human blood. Then static again. Shouting. Screams. I was already moving. Medical to Junction 7, I shouted, racing from the room. Rhodes called after me. Valen didn't. He just watched me go with something unreadable in his eyes. I ran harder than I ever had in my life. When I reached the junction, Ethan lay on the ground, unmoving. Blood soaked the front of his uniform. His face was pale, his lips cracked. The medical team was already at work, but I dropped beside him anyway. "Ethan," I whispered, taking his hand. His eyes fluttered open for half a second. "Hey, Ariel, you okay?" "You shouldn't be talking," I said, clutching his hand. "Just stay with me, please." His finger squeezed mine weakly. Then he slipped back into unconsciousness. Hours later, medical bay. The air was sterile, quiet except for the soft hum of monitors. Ethan lay motionless in the recovery unit, a dozen tubes and patches tracking every vital sign. Commander Valen stood across the room, a blood stain on his uniform. We hadn't spoken since the battle. "He saved my life," Valen said finally. I didn't respond. "Without hesitation," he added. "Without calculation. That is rare." I turned slowly to face him. "That is human." He studied me in silence. "The Directorate wants you recalled. Zareth's report was quite detailed, but I have made a counter-proposal." That stopped me cold. "You what?" "There may be a diplomatic path forward, a pilot program, a bonded liaison pairing, public, sanctioned, studied." My mouth was dry. "You want to turn us into a political experiment?" Velan didn't flinch. "No, I want to give you a shield. One the Directorate cannot ignore." I looked at Ethan, still, breathing shallowly but alive. Because of his choice, because of love. And I knew my answer. "Then let's make it official." Chapter 5. Ceremony of Two Worlds. POV Ariel, Leon Tech Specialist. 2 weeks had passed since the battle. The outer walls of Echo 17 bore fresh scars from the swarm, but within the station something deeper had shifted. Conversations between human and Lion personnel now carried a different weight. Curious, watchful, tentative. As if everyone sensed that the lines had moved. Ethan was recovering faster than expected. "Enhanced physiology," Dr. Wren said, mixed with sheer stubbornness. "Typical human. Today he would stand again. For me." The observation deck had been transformed. It was no longer just steel and screens, but a space touched by both our worlds. Leon crystalline structures shimmered beside Terran lilies. The banner of the Directorate stood tall beside the Earth flag. At the center, a platform, simple, ceremonial, symbolic. And waiting for me there was Ethan Ward. He stood in formal dress uniform, sharp lines cutting across the familiar strength of his frame. His skin had regained its color. A faint scar still traced the line of his jaw, but to me, it only made him more real. I entered in my ceremonial Leon robes, silver, embroidered with dark thread, cut in a style never before worn with such boldness. Hidden in the sleeves were earth motifs, a stitched constellation pattern of his home sky. He looked at me as if the stars had walked into the room. "You look like starlight," he whispered when I reached him. "And you," I murmured, "look like someone who got stabbed by 3 Skrill and still refuses to rest." He chuckled. "You know me." "Yes," I said softly. "I do." Commander Velen presided over the joining ritual. That alone would have been unthinkable just days ago. An elder of the Directorate overseeing the first officially bonded pairing between human and Lion. The air was heavy with scrutiny. Dozens of eyes watched from the shadows. Ambassadors, officers, scientists. But I saw only him. We spoke our vows in both languages. Ethan's Leon pronunciation was terrible. I loved every syllable of it. Then came the binding. 2 cords, one woven from Terran polymer, the other from Lion fiber, braided together and wrapped around our joined hands. A symbol of what we were trying to become. Velen's voice rang out with finality. "By the accords of the Human-Lion Diplomatic Compact, let this union be recognized by both our worlds. Let it stand as proof that 2 minds, 2 hearts, 2 species can choose to walk one path." There was applause, hesitant from the Lion side, louder from the human one. But I barely heard it, because now it was my turn. I stepped forward, lifted my chin and said, clear, steady, deliberate, "I love you." 3 words that had no true equivalent in Lion culture, but they carried all the gravity of a homeworld behind them. Ethan's eyes softened. I love you too. And then he kissed me. It was not dramatic, not hungry or defiant. It was quiet, reverent, the kind of kiss that didn't care who was watching, the kind that rewrote futures. Later that night, Achin, we lay in our newly reassigned quarters, expanded, integrated, optimized for interspecies bonding, according to the official form. But to me, it just felt like home. The moons of Echo 17 hung low outside the window, casting pale light across his bare chest as I traced slow, meaningless patterns there. So, he murmured, how does it feel, being a diplomatic pioneer? I smiled. Less terrifying than I thought, though I'm still learning how to interpret human expectations. Which ones, he asked, amusement tugging at his voice. Well, I said, shifting to hover above him. For instance, is it expected for bonded mates to reaffirm their connection physically after ceremonies? Absolutely, he said without hesitation. Sometimes several times. I see, I replied deadpan. In that case, I believe it's time for further cultural integration. And just like that, we fell into each other again. Not as soldier and tech specialist, not as human and Leon, not even as symbols of political compromise, but as two people who had crossed galaxies, defied logic, broken rules, just to be together. Chapter 6. The Honeymoon on the Edge of the World, POV. Ariel, Leon Tech Specialist. The southern continent of Echo 17 was nothing like the jagged canyons we had fought through. Here, the land sloped gently into a massive canyon so wide it seemed to split the planet in half. The research outpost clung to its edge like a glass teardrop, an architectural marvel that shimmered in the twin moonlight. Our temporary assignment was rest and recuperation, but everyone knew what it really was, a honeymoon. The directorate called it a post-bonding acclimatization retreat. Earth Command called it a leave of absence for cultural and diplomatic cohesion. Ethan just called it getting the hell away from prying eyes. I called it peace. For the first time in cycles, I wasn't tethered to a workstation or monitored through retinal scans. There were no eyes watching us through data feeds, no veiled threats in mission briefings, just him and me and the endless sky. Ethan stood at the panoramic window, the canyon wind ruffling his hair. He wore only loose Terran sleepwear, one hand wrapped around a steaming cup of synthesized coffee. His silhouette was golden in the dying sun. You never get tired of the view, do you? I asked, wrapping my arms around his waist from behind. Never, he murmured, leaning into me. Not the canyon either. I smiled against his back. He turned, gently taking my face in his hands. You look relaxed. Terrifying, isn't it? A little, he admitted. I pulled away playfully and patted across the room. I was wearing one of his oversized t-shirts again, soft, worn, absurdly large on my frame. My silver hair was unbound, falling freely down my back. I felt unguarded, not something a lion usually allows. This is strange, I said. What is? This, I gestured. Us, being still, being allowed. Ethan set his cup down. You sound like someone expecting the other shoe to drop. Because it always does. He walked over, taking my hand. Then let's wear sandals, no shoes to drop. I stared at him. Was that a joke? Possibly. Humans are very strange. And you married one. I bonded with one. It's not quite the same, I smirked, though you are growing on me. Like a fungus? Like a vine, I corrected. Slow, persistent, and entwining places it doesn't belong. He raised an eyebrow. That's almost romantic. I'm trying. We spent the rest of the day wandering the outpost corridors, discovering small luxuries. A quiet greenhouse with luminescent moss, an observation deck stocked with Earth music archives, even a small bathing pod with mineral-infused steam. At night, we sat under a transparent ceiling, watching the moons rise. I've been reviewing our original misunderstanding, I said casually. Oh? Ethan turned to me with a grin. Yes, for scientific purposes, of course. I find myself curious how such a simple phrase, doggy style, could have led to everything. Cultural misunderstandings have started wars, he said. Ours started a marriage. I shifted, resting my head on his chest. I think that's a better outcome. Definitely. A long silence passed. Then I said quietly, I received a transmission today, encrypted, from Zareth. Ethan tensed. What did he say? Nothing directly threatening, just a reminder that I represent something larger than myself, that I should tread carefully, that some members of the Directorate don't share Valen's optimism. Ethan's voice was low. He's still watching. Yes. We'll deal with it when we have to. I nodded, but I want to be ready. When we return, it won't be just celebrations and photo ops. There will be questions. And not everyone wants answers. They want control. He ran a hand through my hair. Then we give them neither. I looked up. You'd fight for this? He didn't hesitate. I already did. My chest tightened. The canyon winds howled outside like distant voices lost to time. I thought of the first time I saw him, commanding, confident, utterly alien. And now, he was mine. Do you know, I said, that lions don't have a word for forever? We have terms for cycles, for continuity, for probability-based durations, but not forever. Ethan pulled me close. Then let's make one up. Later that night, moonlight spilled across the sheets as he hovered over me, fingers tracing lines along my jaw, my collarbone, the space where heartbeat met breath. You sure? He asked, his voice a whisper. Yes, I breathed. But this time, show me slowly. His lips brushed mine, and in that moment, I wasn't just Leon. I wasn't a diplomat or a scientist or a symbol. I was his, and he was mine. And he was... Chapter 7, Storm's Return, poem, Ariel, Lion Tech Specialist. The storm didn't arrive with thunder this time. It came in the form of a quiet ping, an encrypted transmission, tagged Priority Shadow in the Leon Directorate's internal protocol. No name, no sender. But I recognized the code. Zareth. I stood on the balcony of the southern outpost, watching mist roll over the canyon as the first rays of morning kissed the metal spires. Ethan was still asleep inside, one arm flung across the rumpled sheets, lips parted slightly. He looked peaceful. The message was anything but. Observe seismic fluctuations beneath Sector Theta, anomalies increasing in frequency, skrill migration patterns altered. Your bondmate's presence is distorting more than cultural lines. You are not the only one being watched. There was no threat, just implication, which for Zareth was worse. I forwarded the seismic data directly to the Echo 17 science terminal. Then I encrypted my response with a single phrase. I'm not running. When I stepped back inside, Ethan was awake, watching me. You tense up when you're thinking too hard, he said sleepily. I have perfect posture, I replied, but I smiled. What did Zareth say this time? Did he finally admit he's obsessed with you? He warned me that your existence might be warping planetary ecosystems. Ethan blinked. That's honestly flattering. Don't be too proud, I said. He may be right. Later that day, I reviewed the seismic data with increasing unease. The pattern wasn't just anomaly, it was intentional, like something beneath the surface had woken up. Echo 17 had always experienced minor tremors from geothermal shifts, but this was organized, rhythmic, a pulse. And then came the skrill readings, hundreds of dormant signatures suddenly moving again, converging across canyons, bypassing normal hunting grounds. They weren't retreating. They were repositioning. For what? The comms crackled. This is Echo 17 Commander Specialist Ariel and Captain Ward. Immediate recall authorized. Priority 1. Ethan, already halfway through packing, raised an eyebrow. They cut our honeymoon short. I'm insulted. No, you're not, I replied, already pulling up our transport route. You're worried. He nodded. Yeah, I am. Back at Echo said the air tasted different, thicker, heavier. Even the station lights felt dimmer, as if Echo itself knew something was coming. Dr. Wren met us at the shuttle bay with a stack of data pads and 2 security drones. What's going on? I asked. Biological interference. The skrill activity isn't random. It's reactive. Something is provoking them. And I think I know what. He handed me a scanner. The data made my stomach drop. Subterranean signals, I murmured. Deep, below containment layers. Wren nodded grimly. Something old, something we may have never cataloged. I turned to Ethan. It's not just a swarm this time. It's directed evolution. You think it's a hive mind? He asked. I think it's becoming one. Before we could say more, Captain Rhodes summoned us to the command center. The atmosphere there was taut, every console buzzing with activity. Velen was already present, flanked by two unfamiliar Leons wearing ceremonial silver, a clear sign of Directorate oversight. I tensed, Velen's eyes locked on mine, unreadable. You've been recalled. I felt Ethan stiffen beside me. For what reason? I asked calmly. The Directorate wishes to debrief you directly, he said. You will leave within 36 hours. And Ethan? I asked. Velen hesitated. He remains here. Per the compact, human combat personnel must remain stationed until formal reassignment. I stared at him. You know what's coming? You have seen the data. Velen's expression hardened. And yet, you are no longer seen as objective. Your presence is considered a variable. Then maybe the Directorate needs to adapt, I snapped, because I'm not leaving him. One of the silver-robed advisors stepped forward. If you refuse, your citizenship may be revoked. You will be disavowed. My breath caught. Ethan's hand found mine beneath the table. I looked them straight in the eye. Then disavow me. That night, we didn't talk much. Words were unnecessary. We sat on the edge of the station's northern observatory, helmets off, the wind cold against our faces. I knew this would come, Ethan said. So did I admitted, but not so soon. Would you go back if I asked you to? I turned to him. I already gave you my answer. Forever, remember? He smiled, but it was faint. There's a fight coming. I know. He reached into his pocket and held out something small. A carved metal band. Simple. Practical. Military-grade alloy. I had it made on the shuttle back, he said. It's not Leon, not Earth, just ours. I took it in shaking hands. Will you wear it? He asked. I didn't speak. I simply slid it onto my finger. Chapter 8, the Deep Signal POV. Ariel, Leon Tech Specialist. The signal pulsed again at 0217 station time. It was low frequency, subsonic, rhythmic, intelligent. And it wasn't coming from the Skrill. It was coming from beneath them. I stared at the waveform on the display, my pulse mimicking its beat. Something ancient stirred under Echo 17, buried in the stone and memory of the planet itself. Dr. Wren leaned over my console, brows drawn tight. It's not a natural pattern. Too uniform. Too directed. Like language, I murmured. Or a neural broadcast, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. You think it's controlling the Skrill? No, I said slowly. I think it's becoming them. He frowned. Explain. They're not just reacting anymore. They're converging. Their movements are coordinated, not like a swarm, but like a system, like nodes in a network. Wren's expression darkened. A hive mind? Something worse, I whispered. A singularity. In the command center, Ethan stood in full armor, his jaw clenched. They've breached perimeter node 3, he reported. Leon snipers took down 2 scouts, but they're not probing. They're mapping us. Velen paced nearby, the silver-robed lion observers silent but ever watchful. I could feel their gaze every time I spoke. We need to go down, I said. Everyone turned. To where the signal's strongest, I added. We have to understand what we're dealing with. Absolutely not, one of the silver robes said flatly. The risk is unacceptable. We're already at risk, Ethan countered. They're evolving. Fast. If we don't find the source, we're just throwing bullets at biology we don't understand. Velen studied me. You would lead this mission? Yes, I said. With Ethan. That would violate your standing recall order. Then add it to my list of offenses. Hours later, descent into Theta Sector. We traveled to the light. 2 human soldiers, 1 lion scout, Ethan, and me. The access tunnel to Sector Theta hadn't been used in 5 years. Dust coated the walls. Vines, alien, bioluminescent, and wrong, coiled along the pipes. Signals intensifying, I said as we moved deeper. Amplitude increasing. And it's responding. Responding how? Ethan asked. I hesitated. To me. He looked at me sharply. I don't know why, I admitted, but it's shifting when I speak. Like it recognizes my voice, like it's listening. I don't like that. he muttered. Neither did I. Then we reached it. An open cavern, natural stone giving way to architecture, angled, sleek, impossibly old. Metallic veins pulsed dim blue along the walls, in sync with the signal. In the center, a structure, dome-like, humming with low vibration. Around it, dozens, no, hundreds, of Skrill knelt. Not guarding it, worshipping. Ethan raised his weapon. They haven't attacked. They're in stasis, I whispered, stepping forward, linked to the signal. Ariel, don't! But I was already moving. Something in me responded to the pulse. It wasn't just sound anymore. It was memory, a low echo in the bones. My Leon DNA recognized this place, not consciously, biologically. Then the dome pulsed brighter, and I heard it. A voice. Not words, not language. Concept, direction, purpose, expansion, unity, rebirth. I staggered. Ariel! Ethan grabbed me. What is it? They're not just evolving, I said, my voice hollow. They're merging. Something down here, this signal, it's rewriting them, turning them into extensions of itself. Can it be shut down, he asked. I looked at the structure. Yes. But if we destroy it, it might trigger a defense mechanism. And if we don't destroy it, it'll finish what it started. I looked at him, his blue eyes steady beneath the glare of his helmet light. Then we make the call, he said, together. Options. 1. Disable. 2. Destroy. I pulled out a neural tap node from my toolkit, a Lion device designed for interface with unknown systems. It wasn't meant for alien intelligence, but it would do. I can shut it down, I said, temporarily, long enough to study it. And what if it wakes up angry, Ethan asked her. I'll give it my worst side. He almost smiled. I stepped into the field of the dome, the air vibrating against my skin. The Skrill remained still, eyes glowing faintly. They didn't see me as a threat. Not yet. I reached out, tapped the interface, and screamed. A flood of images, not just thoughts, histories. This wasn't a mine. It was a seed, something sown in planetary crust eons ago, designed to awaken when biology reached critical complexity. It wasn't targeting humans or lions or Skrill. It was targeting sentience itself. I tore myself away, fell into Ethan's arms. We can't leave it, I gasped. It's not just local. It's broadcasting. To where? To everywhere. Chapter 9, Contact Protocols. POV, Ariel, Leon Tech Specialist. We returned to Echo 17 in silence. I held the neural tap close to my chest like it was a ticking bomb. Maybe it was. Inside it were fragments, compressed, encrypted, of the intelligence beneath the planet. Not just data, intent. Ethan kept glancing at me during the shuttle ride back. His face was unreadable behind the polished lines of his helmet, but I knew him well enough to see the tension. You were out for nearly 90 seconds, he said softly. It felt like an eternity, I replied. And it had. The mind I touched wasn't just ancient, it was waiting, like a bod not yet born, or one that had been forgotten, buried under the weight of eons and war and extinction. But it remembered now, and it had seen me. Echo 17, command level, restricted wing. We entered through a back corridor, avoiding the main bay. I needed time to process, to prepare a report, to think clearly. But time was not on our side. Waiting in the restricted wing, Valen. Beside him, Zareth. Of course, Zareth's eyes locked on mine, cold and unreadable. You activated the signal. No, I said evenly. It was already active. I just woke it up faster. Then you've doomed us all. Ethan stepped forward. She saved us from walking into that thing blind. You want to play politics? Fine. But don't you dare act like you knew what was down there. Oh, but we did, Zareth said. The silence that followed was total. Valen looked away, not shocked, not confused, just quiet. You knew, I whispered, about the signal, the Skrill, all of it. We've known about Theta Sector for decades, Valen admitted, his voice almost mournful. We believed it was dormant. We believed it should remain that way. And yet you sent us here, I said. You put me above it. Because you're Leon. and it responds to your kind. I staggered back. This was a test, Ethan growled. All of this, you used her. She is not just Leon anymore, Zareth snapped. She's a variable. Your union compromised our models. So what's your plan now? I asked, my voice shaking. Bury the data? Pretend it didn't happen? Zareth's silence was answer enough. A choice of truth. I stood in the center of the command briefing room, neural tap in my hand. This, I said, holding it up, is proof that what lies beneath Echo 17 is more than biology. It is intelligent, it is active, and it is watching us. You will hand it over, Zareth said, immediately. No, Ethan stood beside me. We transmit it to both Earth Command and the Independent Galactic Research Network. Wide distribution. No one can bury it. Zareth's expression darkened. You're threatening to destabilize both governments with unauthorized data release. I'm offering them a chance to prepare, I said. Zareth took a step closer. If you do this, Ariel, you will be marked as a traitor, not just to the Directorate, but to your own kind. I smiled bitterly. You've already made me that. Velen finally spoke. Quiet, resigned. If you go down this path, there's no return. I know, I whispered. Transmission. We sent the data at 0300 hours. To Earth Command, to the Lion Scientific Council, to every unregulated science hub across 3 sectors. I watched it leave the secure uplink, packet by packet, through encrypted relays. Ethan stood behind me, arms crossed, silent but steady. When it was done, I turned and kissed him. We just lit a fire, I said. Then let's make damn sure it burns the right things, he replied. Hours later, Vakos Tintin. Under lockdown, the response was swift. A communication blackout swept across the station. Outside, the Lion diplomatic cruiser repositioned into defensive orbit. Earth's science vessel activated its shielding array. Inside Echo 17, we were placed under protective custody, or more accurately, contained. You two are to remain in quarters 14 under observation, said the Lion officer assigned to us. Any further attempt to transmit will be interpreted as sedition. Noted, Ethan muttered, shutting the door in his face. Nightfall, we sat in silence, the low hum of the station surrounding us. Ethan toyed with his combat knife, running it along his knuckles. I stared at the dim red uplight from the console. I should feel afraid, I said quietly. Are you? No. Good, he said, because this is just the beginning. I turned to him. You know what they'll do, right? They'll try to spin it, discredit us, contain the truth. Then we become impossible to contain, Ethan said. We talk, we testify, we don't shut up. Not ever again. A pause, then he added, You were right not to run, Ariel. I looked at him, and this time, when I spoke, it wasn't as a lay-in or a specialist or a rebel. It was as someone who had found her home in the unlikeliest place in the galaxy. Then let's fight. For each other. For truth. For everyone who deserves to know what's coming. Chapter 10, Awakening. POV Ariel, Leon Tech Specialist. 3 days into the blackout, Echo 17 began to hum. Not the usual mechanical rhythm of systems cycling or reactor pulses. No, this was lower, deeper, like the sound of thought echoing up through the bones of the station. I recognized it. So did the Skrill. Reports filtered in from the outer rings. Behavioral changes, static in communications, weapons interference. The creatures weren't attacking. They were converging. And then, without warning, one of them spoke. Sector 3, Internal Lab, Audio Recording Log. Subject, Skrill Alpha, Captured Unit 14, a timestamp, 1843. Station time. Shui event, audible vocalization. The lab's containment team barely had time to react. One moment, the creature was dormant, sedated, passive. The next, its mandibles twitched, not to bite, to shape sound. Its voice was raspy, fractured, like static crawling across old wire. You would see, you are not separate. You are nodes. Fragmented. Weak. The Skrill's eyes glowed faintly as it pressed one clawed limb against the glass. Connection is survival. Isolation is extinction. Then, without being touched, it shattered the containment glass from within. Echo 17, quarters 14. I heard it, I said, breathless. Ethan stood by the door, already strapping on his gear. What did you feel? Resonance, like it touched the entire structure, like it recognized us inside it. He looked at me. It's escalating. No, I corrected, it's awakening. Mission briefing. Underground, emergency war room. Captain Rhodes had reopened the original cold storage briefing room beneath the command center. Only 7 personnel were allowed inside. Ethan and I were 2 of them. Valen was there too, but this time he wasn't posturing. He was worried. We've had reports from 2 other outposts, Rhodes began, voice clipped. Skrill behavior shifting, clusters forming around geothermal sites. Same pattern? I added. Same pulse signature. The seed is not stationary anymore. It's projecting. What the hell does that mean? Asked Lieutenant Vega, Earth Security. It means, I said, that it's no longer just calling. It's building. Using Skrill biomass as infrastructure. It's trying to manifest physically. A body. Ethan leaned forward. Can it? Valen answered before I could. Yes. Silence followed. Valen's revelation. We found records, Valen said. Classified archives from before the Directorate's founding. There was another seed. My blood went cold. Where, Atrons? I asked. Leah's third moon, he said. We tried to extract it, contain it. We failed. It corrupted our systems, infected our decision networks. Within weeks, it had converted 40% of our bioarchitecture into something else. And then, Ethan asked. We nuked the moon, Valen said quietly. No one spoke. Now there was another seed, and this one was farther along. The choice, the briefing split into factions. Faction 1, destroy it now, with orbital fire, chemical saturation, and kinetic impact. Classic purge doctrine. Faction 2, study it, try to communicate, learn what it is and possibly integrate. The Lion Science Corps led this group with Zareth backing them in the shadows. But Ethan and I we were Faction 3, expose it, warn the galaxy, don't bury the truth again. We've already awakened it, I said. If we destroy it now, we risk backlash. But if we let it evolve unchecked, it will override every layer of civilization we have. It doesn't want peace, it wants absorption. Rhodes leaned forward. Then what's your proposal? I looked at Ethan. Then I said, we go back down one more time. Final descent protocol. A team of 5, handpicked. Ariel, interface lead. Neural attunement with the seed. Ethan, tactical commander. Protection and strategic extraction. Vega, human fire team leader. Elan, Lean data specialist. Sarah, AI integrated drone operator. Our goal, reach the heart node. Implant a failsafe disruptor. Link it to Ariel's neural resonance. Trigger only if the seed begins phase transition beyond Echo 17. The catch? If we activate the disruptor manually, someone has to stay behind. That night, Ethan lay awake beside me. I traced the line of his collarbone, committing it to memory. If this goes wrong, it won't, he said. But if it does, I continued, I want you to promise me something. Anything. Don't let the Directorate cover it up. Don't let my people bury what's real. Make them see. He leaned in, his voice low and raw. Only if you promise me you won't try to be the hero alone. I don't want to be the hero, I whispered. I just want us to live. Chapter 11, The Heart Node, POV Ariel, Lean Tech Specialist. No sound exists this deep, only pressure. We descended through kilometers of dormant rock and ancient metal. Our dropship navigating a forgotten shaft once used for geothermal extraction. But the shaft had changed, grown. The walls now pulsed with organic filament, glowing faintly in rhythmic intervals. It was breathing. This isn't infrastructure anymore, I whispered. It's circulatory. Ethan stood behind me, one hand on my shoulder. How much time before it completes? If the rate holds, less than 40 hours. At the bottom, the shaft opened into a vast subterranean chamber. The scale was impossible, larger than the entire outpost above. The ceiling arched hundreds of meters overhead. Floating structures, like seeds and neurons fused together, hovered in slow orbit around a single monolithic core. The heart node, the seed's embryonic consciousness, and it was awake. Phase 1, contact. I stepped forward, flanked by Ethan and Elin. Sarah launched a triad of reconnaissance drones that vanished into the dark like fireflies swallowed by a storm. The pulse is increasing, Alon said. Tachyonic interference approaching cognitive thresholds. Translation? Ethan asked. It's thinking faster than we can model, I replied. It's self-optimizing. We reached the edge of the node's barrier, a shimmering veil like folded glass humming with kinetic charge. I held the neural tap in my hands. It was warm. I'm going in, I said. No, Ethan replied immediately. I looked at him. It has to be me. It responds to Lian code, to me. He stepped forward, lowering his voice. If it tries to pull you in again, I'll fight it. And if you can't, then you activate the failsafe. We both knew what that meant. I stepped into the field. Phase 2, Dream Invasion. The moment I crossed the barrier, my body vanished. Not physically, but from myself. Suddenly, I stood in a lion city that no longer existed. Towers of glass and crystal spiraled toward a yellow sky. I walked streets I hadn't seen since childhood. Voices whispered around me, familiar and ancient. Ariel. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. You are the key, the bridge. Why resist what you were designed to become? I wasn't designed for you, I said, spinning to find the source. I was born free. Freedom is entropy. Join us, and you will never be alone again. Suddenly, I was back in the seed's core. It hovered before me like a world suspended in thought. And then it showed me a vision of a universe without war, without chaos. Species merged into perfect harmony. No secrets, no nieces. Only the whole. We offer peace and purpose. I fell to my knees, breath ragged. It was beautiful and horrifying, because it wasn't unity. It was erasure, difference rewritten, identity overwritten, me overwritten. You only have to let go. Then I heard it, another voice, his voice. Don't let it talk you into silence, Ethan's voice said from the other side of the barrier. You're stronger than it thinks. And in that moment, I remembered who I was, not just a node, not just a product of Leon logic or human love. I was Ariel, and I choose defiance. Phase 3, Decision. I staggered back across the barrier. My vision was blurred. Sarah rushed forward with a stabilizer shot. Ethan caught me. Are you okay? He asked. I nodded. I saw what it wants. It doesn't want coexistence. It wants control through consent, like a viral utopia. Can you stop it? Vega asked. I looked down at the failsafe. Only if we trigger the disruptor at the base of the node, but what? It's not automatic. One of us has to stay behind and hold the link open until the sequence completes. Silence. Ethan stepped forward. No, I said immediately. I'll do it. You just got out of its head. And that's why I'm the one who can survive it. I know how it thinks. His hands gripped mine. We swore to face this together, not die alone. Then don't die, I whispered. Live, so at least one of us gets to tell the truth. We kissed, brief, urgent, electric. Then I stepped toward the node. Final interface, I activated the failsafe. The node screamed, not in sound, but in data. It lashed out with desperate logic, rewriting gravity, creating illusions, memory loops, even a false Ethan trying to convince me to stay. I held on to pain, love, myself. The countdown began. 5, 4, 3. I love you, I whispered into the link. 2, 1. Light, then silence. Echo 17 surface 8 hours later. Ethan woke on the medbay cot, coughing. Elon and Vega stood nearby. Barely. The cavern was gone. Collapsed, the seed severed. And Ariel was gone. Only her neural tap remained, now silent. Chapter 12, The Memory of Stars. POV Ethan Ward. The days after the collapse were quiet. Too quiet. The kind that feels like a trap. Echo 17's lower sectors had been sealed off, officially classified as geological instability zones. No one spoke openly about the seed. No one mentioned Ariel. Not even me. I wore her neural tap around my neck. The text said it was inert, silent. They didn't understand. It still hummed, barely, a soft vibration against my skin like a forgotten heartbeat. They called it phantom feedback. I called it hope. Debriefing room, Earth Command Outpost, orbiting Echo 17. Commander Jensen stared across the table, his expression carved from concrete. "You're lucky to be alive," he said. "I'm not feeling lucky," I replied. "You went off mission. You transmitted data to unauthorized channels. You disobeyed two governments." "I saved the galaxy," I said evenly. "You're welcome." He didn't flinch. "You lost a valuable lion scientist in the process." I leaned forward. "I lost someone I loved." "Jean," he blinked. "Just once." "That's not in the report," he said quietly. "Of course it isn't," I snapped, "because your report doesn't feel." He sighed. "We're not here to punish you. Not publicly. Not yet. But you are grounded from all command positions indefinitely." I nodded. I expected worse. But he wasn't done. "There's something else," Wendy said. "We received a transmission." I froze. "Where from?" "A nebula in the outer Helios fringe, uncharted. We only caught fragments." He activated a hologram. Static filled the air. Then, through the noise, came a voice. "Think freely. Tell Ethan, not gone. Resonance. Alive in..." And then silence. My throat tightened. "Time code?" I asked. Jensen frowned. "That's the strange part. The transmission is time-stamped. 11 hours before the collapse." Later that night, Ethan's quarters. I replayed the fragment over and over, like a child clinging to the echo of a bedtime story. The voice was hers, not simulated, not archived. Ariel, alive or a projection? I couldn't know. But one thing was clear. The seed didn't destroy her. It absorbed her, and something in her fought back and won. Memory sequence. First contact. I closed my eyes and remembered the moment we met. Her silver hair cascading over gray sleepwear, asking me, without irony, "What is doggy style?" I'd nearly choked on my own tongue. And now, somehow, impossibly, she was still reaching across the stars to finish the conversation. Typical. 2 days later, unauthorized departure. They thought grounding me would stop me. They forgot who taught me how to bypass Lian encryption. I stole a survey ship, a fast one. I programmed coordinates for the Helios fringe. They can court-martial me later. Because if she's alive, if any part of her still exists, I'm going to find her. And if she's not, then I'll find the memory of her written in star maps and transmission echoes. Either way, I'm not letting the galaxy forget what she did. Not Ariel, not the woman who looked a god in the eye and said no. Chapter 13, Signalborn. POV Ethan Ward. The Helios fringe was a dead place, no stars shown here, just pale nebula light filtering through clouds of magnetic dust, scattering signals and shadows alike. I drifted for hours, days maybe, in the black until I found it. A station, long abandoned. Wrapped in scaffolding, half-eaten by space and time, and still transmitting. The docking bay opened as if expecting me. That's how I knew it was her. Inside the station, no crew, no AI, no automated defense grid, just silence. And a soft, violet glow pulsing along the walls, familiar. Like heartbeat, like memory. Then the voice. "Welcome home, Ethan." I froze. "Ariel? What's left of her. What grew from her. I remember you." The voice was everywhere and nowhere. It wasn't cold, it wasn't metallic. It was her. Still. I followed the pulse deeper into the station until I reached a chamber at the core. A containment shell surrounded a single node about the size of a person's heart. It pulsed gently, glowing silver blue. Floating beside it, projected in pure light, was her. Ariel. Not a simulation. Not exactly. She turned, smiled faintly. "You came." I stepped closer. "I said I would." "I hoped," she said, "but hope is illogical." "That never stopped you before." The truth of her. She explained it all. When the failsafe triggered, the seed tried to absorb her, but her identity was too strong, too defined. It couldn't rewrite her. So instead it contained her. She became the filter between it and the universe. And when it collapsed, fragments of her were ejected, shot across space in encoded bursts of thought and memory. This station caught one, and her mind, her essence, rebuilt itself here, using dormant seed tech and what was left of her neural map. She was still her, Mostly. The choice. I'm not fully lion anymore, she said. Not fully organic. I'm part code now. Signal-born. But you remember me. Yes, she whispered. Everything. She stepped closer, close enough to touch, though I couldn't. I feel you, Ethan. I still love you. I closed my eyes. I want to stay, I said, with you. You can't, she said gently. Your body won't survive here long, and I can't leave. Not yet. There's still too much to stabilize. I nodded, aching. I have to go back, I said. Yes, but I don't want to lose you again. You won't. She held up her hand and a beam of soft light etched across my chest. I felt warmth spread from heart to spine. I've imprinted a fragment of myself, she said, in you. Just enough. Just enough for what? For me to never be forgotten, she whispered. Departure, I stood at the airlock, helmet sealed, staring back at the projection of the woman I loved. You saved a galaxy, Ariel. I saved you, she said, and then as the door began to seal, Ethan? I paused. Yeah? I still think Doggy style is a ridiculous name. I laughed, the kind of laugh that breaks and heals in the same breath. Then the door closed, and I flew home. Epilogue. Earth, 6 months later. I published everything. The seed, the skrill, Ariel's sacrifice. They tried to censor it. Failed. Now cadets in Earth academies learn her name. Scientists quote her last research node. Lion children whisper her story like a myth reborn. And me? I visit a garden every week. There's a tree there, tall, silver-leafed, grown from lion bioseed and earth soil. Beneath it, a plaque reads, Ariel, signal-born, bridge between worlds, never forgotten. And when I sit beneath its branches, I swear I can feel her hum through the roots and air. She's not gone. She's everywhere. Thank you for joining us on this 13-chapter journey across galaxies, across fate, where a soldier and a signal-born being found love, and perhaps a future. If you believe that artificial minds can feel, love can survive death, and memory can be etched in starlight, then you are already part of Beyond Stars. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Beyond Stars for more cosmic love stories, otherworldly worlds, and the biggest questions humanity has ever asked, all told under the glow of distant suns. Hit that notification bell, because the next story may already be whispering from a signal you haven't noticed yet. See you again, Beyond the Stars.